Americans held hostage, abandoned behind enemy lines. Day 34.
And welcome to Hannity. It is now day 34. Americans held hostage, abandoned by Joe Biden behind enemy lines of the Taliban. That's right, terrorists. Our so-called commander-in-chief is ignoring the hundreds of Americans and thousands of allies, thousands of Americans with green cards or legitimately have a right to be here. He abandoned them all in Afghanistan. These people, many are in hiding tonight. And with each passing day, the prospect of their survival, it gets worse and worse. And Joe doesn't want to talk about it. At this hour, Biden is not working around the clock to secure their release. He is not at a command center working on a solution. Instead, he's enjoying another long weekend off in Delaware. Someone in the administration needs to remind Joe, Joe, you're the president of the United States. Americans actually could use your help right about now. Might be time to get off your ass and get to work to save American lives. If he's too weak, too frail, too slow to handle the job 7 days a week, he should step down and retire. Because right now there are serious crises on multiple fronts this Friday news night. France, one of our top allies, just recalled their ambassador to the U.S. because of a dispute over nuclear submarines. Great job, Joe. We're once again respected on the world stage. This is embarrassing yet again. Also breaking tonight, a shameful Friday information dump from the Biden administration. Remember the recent U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan when the Biden administration, remember they told us they took out an ISIS terrorist transporting a bomb and they stopped the bomb that he was taking right to the Karzai International Airport in Kabul? Yeah, they wouldn't give us the name. That was the first tip-off that something was wrong. Today, they just officially announced they did not kill an ISIS terrorist, that strike, Joe's drone strike, killed 10 innocent civilians, aid workers, instead of terrorists, including, 7 children. Did you get that, Joe Biden? Your over-the-horizon drone strike killed 7 innocent children and people that were there helping on a humanitarian level. Yeah, Joe, you have blood on your hands. But how could it be? Because remember, Jen Psaki promised us that Biden's brilliant over-the-horizon anti-terrorist strategy was more than sufficient. You might remember this.
What we've seen over the past week is that our over-the-horizon capacity can work and has worked in going after ISIS targets and killing people who went after our troops. So that's where our resources and our focus is going to be on at this point in time.
Well, it did work for Trump and the Caliphate and Soleimani and Baghdadi and associates and the al-Qaeda leader in Yemen, but it didn't work for Joe Biden. Per usual, that was all BS. And just like the Taliban terrorists, they keep telling us they're so professional and businesslike as they're executing people and beheading people and beating women in the streets. Now, the first test of Biden's over-the-horizon anti-terror strategy, a horrific failure, another embarrassment. 2 weeks ago, General Milley, the genius that he is, he called this a righteous strike. Do you stand by this, General, tonight? And by the way, you should be on administrative leave pending the results of a real investigation as to the seriousness of the charges against him. Take a look.
Were there others killed? Yes, there are others killed. Who they are, we don't know. We'll try to sort through all that. But we believe that the procedures at this point, I don't want to influence the outcome of an investigation, but at this point we think that the procedures were correctly followed and it was a righteous strike.
You stand by that statement, General Milley? You still believe in Biden's over-the-horizon capabilities. Over-the-horizon, does he know what day it is? What about the allegations of treason against you, General? Because according to this upcoming book from Bob Woodward and Robert Costa, in the final months of the Trump administration, General Mark Milley reportedly, according to them, promised to give communist China a heads up if the U.S. was planning any attack. He's also accused of colluding with other military leaders and Nancy Pelosi to strip the president of his sole constitutional authority as commander-in-chief to launch a nuclear strike if he needed to. In a non-denial denial, Milley defended his calls with China. He called them perfectly within the scope of his job. Okay, you didn't tell the Director of National Intelligence or the Secretary of Defense. So, General Milley, did you or did you not promise to give China a heads up before any attack? Can we get a copy of that transcript? Did you attempt to usurp the constitutional authority of the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, on nuclear codes? Because if the answer to either of those questions is yes, that would make you, General Milley, a traitor. And by the way, that would make you an insurrectionist. And by the way, we need to know Nancy Pelosi's role in all of this. And tonight, even more damning revelations from this upcoming book of Woodward and Costa. And I do need to note, they say they are standing by every word of their reporting involving General Milley and every other issue that has come out. Now, according to this book, a very woke General Milley actually played down the violent protests that were going on in 2020, and he called them penny packet protests, whatever the hell that means. He even pushed back against President Trump's statement that the U.S. was suffering under these violent nationwide riots that were burning America down. According to Woodward and Costa, General Milley stated, quote, "Mr. President, they're not burning it down." Really? Okay, General, we'll show you the video. We'll remind you, what would you call all of this? Excuse me, General, but law and order broke down completely in city after city after city. Police precincts were burned to the ground. Hundreds of businesses were lit on fire. Looting was rampant. Entire city blocks taken over by anarchists. Dozens of Americans died, including multiple police officers. Thousands of other law enforcement officers pelted with bricks and rocks and bottles and frozen water bottles and Molotov cocktails around the same time that General Milley reportedly made these comments. On May 31st, in New York alone, at least 345 people were arrested, at least 47 police vehicles damaged or destroyed, 33 police officers were injured. That was just one day.